They used to need me for everything. Birthday cakes, Christmas lights, last-minute school projects. If it had glitter or a deadline, it was, "Mom, could you help?" And I always could. I was good at that. I ran cultural programming for the local library for over 2 decades. I knew how to make things beautiful on a budget, how to make a room feel like it mattered. When I retired last spring, I figured I'd have more time for myself. Maybe take up gardening. Maybe finally sort through the boxes in the garage. But the truth is, I still craved purpose. I still needed someone to need me. So when my son Jason asked if I could help out a little for Becca's 35th birthday, I didn't hesitate. Of course I said yes. Becca, his wife, has always been polite. Not warm. Not rude either. Just the kind of woman who thanks you for the gift before opening it. Who reminds you gently but clearly that we're doing things a bit differently with the kids now. Whenever I suggest pancakes for dinner. She's from Portland. I'm from Savannah. We've never really met in the middle. But this party felt like a chance. Jason wanted to throw her a garden dinner. Casual but elegant, he said. Maybe 30 people, some close friends. Her parents flying in from Oregon. I offered to take care of the venue, the food, the rentals, the decor. "Only if you're sure, Mom," he said. But relief washed over his face when I agreed. That's the thing about adult children. They ask as if they're giving you a choice, but they know what you'll say. I spent 2 weeks researching local caterers, calling in a favor at the botanical garden for the space, hand-picking table linens that matched the soft green of her eyes. Yes, I noticed. I made a playlist of quiet, acoustic covers, booked a sommelier from the winery where they got engaged, and found a local florist who could deliver centerpieces of eucalyptus and cream roses, just like Becca's wedding bouquet. Every detail was handled. Every RSVP confirmed. I thought maybe this time she'd see me not as Jason's mother, or as the woman who brings store-bought pies to Thanksgiving, but as someone who still had something to offer. Someone worth thanking, genuinely, not out of politeness. The day of the party, I arrived early to oversee setup. The backyard had been transformed. Soft string lights zigzagged above the long table. The caterers team was laying down cloth napkins, just as I'd shown them. And the cake, gluten-free vanilla with lavender frosting, was being placed in a shaded corner of the patio. Jason wasn't there yet. Becca came out wearing a white sundress and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, everything looks great," she said, taking in the space. It wasn't effusive, but it was something. I told myself not to expect too much. She's not the expressive type. "I'll just check the seating one last time," I said, walking toward the table. The place cards were laid out exactly as I'd arranged, except mine was missing. I paused. Maybe it had blown away. I checked again. 29 names, and none of them were mine. I turned back to Becca, who was now chatting with her mother by the bar. Jason still wasn't back. I felt something hollow open in my chest, like the sudden absence of sound after a power outage. I walked quietly into the house, sat down at the kitchen counter, waited. 10 minutes later, Jason burst in through the side gate, shirt untucked, cheeks flushed. "Hey, Mom. Everything good?" I smiled. "I think there's been a mix-up. My seat's not at the table." He blinked. "Really? That's weird. I'm sure there's space, though. You don't mind sitting with the kids, right? There's a little setup near the garden shed." The kids. The folding table with plastic cups and chicken nuggets. That's where they'd put me. I nodded very slowly. Of course. But something inside me, something old and quiet, broke loose. I stood up, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. The late afternoon heat wrapped around me as I walked to my car. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I just sat for a moment with my hands on the wheel, the engine off, the air still. A quiet like that makes you hear things. The clink of glasses from the backyard, the faint laughter, the soft hum of a playlist I'd curated myself. I drove home without turning on the radio. My house felt too big when I walked in. All those rooms I used to fill with noise, now silent. I sat in the kitchen and poured myself a glass of iced tea. The kind Jason used to ask for when he'd come in from playing baseball in the yard, his cheeks flushed, his cleats dirty. Funny how your hands remember, pouring, stirring, wiping down the counter. Even when the heart wants to forget. I stared at my phone. No texts. No calls. I wasn't expecting an apology. I think I was just wondering if anyone noticed I'd gone. 30 minutes passed. Then I picked up my phone and opened my email. Every contract, every deposit, every arrangement had been made by me. I didn't cancel out of spite. I canceled because something inside me snapped, not loudly, not with drama. Just a clean, decisive break. I sent one email to the venue. Please release the space. The event is no longer needed. Then another to the caterer. Then the wine company. Then the florist. Each one responded quickly, professionally. Most hadn't yet charged my card, just held temporary authorizations under my name. One by one, I closed every open tab in my browser and in my heart. I turned off my phone. Let them figure it out. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight on my pillow and the strange comfort of not being needed. No panic calls, no apologies, but one long voicemail from Jason, left at 11:47 p.m. Hey, Mom. We're not really sure what happened. Becca said maybe you weren't feeling well. Anyway, just call me back when you can. It's fine. We figured things out. Kind of a hiccup, I guess. Just call me. His tone said more than his words. He wasn't worried. He was embarrassed. And Becca? I knew she hadn't said I was unwell. She wouldn't lie on my behalf. She would have said nothing at all, and let silence do the talking. That weekend, I didn't answer the phone. Instead, I drove out to the farmer's market on Saturday like I always do. Picked out peaches soft enough to bruise if you weren't careful. Bought a new candle that smelled like sea salt and cedar. Listened to an old man play banjo in front of the cafe without dropping $1 in his case, not out of rudeness, but because I just wanted to stand still for a while and not do anything for anyone. And when I got home, I did the unthinkable. I sat in my backyard and read a book. Not something to plan. Not something to fix. Just a novel. The sun on my shoulders. No agenda. It felt like permission. To exist. Quietly. Fully. Without service. The following week passed like something I wasn't quite part of. Jason didn't call again. Becca sent a brief text that read, "Hope you're feeling better. Let us know if you need anything." I didn't answer. What would I even say? I needed a chair at the table, but you gave me a folding one near the bushes. People assume silence means peace, but sometimes it's just the sound of a woman deciding she won't beg to be included anymore. I thought maybe they'd come by on Sunday. That was our old routine. Family lunch, the kids running wild in the backyard, Becca on her phone, Jason helping me slice the roast. But Sunday came and went. My doorbell didn't ring. And just like that, I became a gap. A pause in someone else's schedule. A name that didn't come up. I busied myself. Rearranged the linen closet. Donated a box of books I hadn't opened in years. Cleaned out the shed. But there's only so much scrubbing you can do before the stillness creeps back in. On Tuesday, I ran into Sharon at the grocery store. My neighbor across the street. The one who bakes too much and always has a pie dish to return. "Oh, we missed you at the party," she said brightly. Everything looked lovely until it didn't. She raised her eyebrows in that way Southern women do when they want to ask without asking. I smiled like I'd practiced it. I guess I just got tired. "Well," she said, lowering her voice, "there was a bit of a situation. Caterer never came. No drinks. Becca looked like she was ready to faint. Poor girl." I said nothing. "Jason looked like he'd seen a ghost," she added. Still nothing. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. That evening I sat down and opened a blank notebook. Not for a journal. I don't keep one. I've always felt that if something is worth remembering, your bones will hold it. But this wasn't for remembering. It was for reclaiming. I wrote down everything I'd paid for. Every service I'd arranged, every contract in my name, every dollar of mine that had kept the celebration standing until they pulled my chair away. Not because I wanted it back. I didn't. But because I wanted to see in black and white what it cost to be excluded from your own offering. It wasn't the money. It never is. It was the slow realization that, somewhere along the way, I stopped being family and became support staff. Silent, available, uninvited, and I'd allowed it. For too long. The first call came late Thursday afternoon. I let it ring. Then ring again. It wasn't Jason. It was his sister, my daughter, Emily. "Hey, Mom," she said cautiously when I finally picked up. "Jason's worried." I didn't respond right away. I was folding towels one by one, slow and square like my mother taught me. It's funny how some movements feel holy when your heart's tired. "He said you left the party," Emily continued, "that you didn't say why." "I wasn't expected to stay," I said simply. Silence on her end. Then, "That's not what he meant." I sat down on the edge of the bed. "No, Emily, that's exactly what he meant. And that's the part that hurts." Later that night, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Jason. I didn't answer. He texted, "I think we misunderstood each other. Can we talk?" "Becca feels awful. She never wanted you to feel left out." This whole thing blew up for no reason. That last one made me set the phone down, face down on the table. No reason. It's always no reason when the wound isn't theirs. By Saturday, I found a small envelope in my mailbox. No stamp, just slipped inside. Inside it was a card, white blank, with one sentence in Becca's neat, sharp handwriting. "I'm sorry if we made you feel unwelcome." I read it twice. That little word, if. As though the hurt was a misunderstanding, as though I might have imagined it. I closed the card and slid it back into the envelope. Didn't tear it, didn't keep it, just placed it in the recycling bin with the week's pizza flyers and grocery coupons. Not out of anger, out of clarity. That evening, I walked past the hallway mirror and stopped. Not to look at my reflection. I know that face well, but to see something deeper. My posture. My presence. I wasn't wilting. I was rerouting. Quietly, steadily. There's a kind of strength that comes when you realize you've been participating in your own erasure, and you choose, finally, to stop. I wasn't punishing them. I wasn't cutting them off. I was simply done holding the invitation open to people who never meant to sit beside me. It wasn't until the following Thursday that Jason came by in person. I was on the porch, clipping dead leaves off my potted basil. He walked up slowly, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome, and for once I didn't rush to make him feel that he was. "Hi, Mom," he said, standing just below the first step. "Can I come up?" I gestured to the other chair on the porch, the one that used to be his father's. He sat down carefully like it might bite. We didn't speak right away. I let the silence do its work. Then he sighed. "I think we really messed up." I didn't argue. I didn't let him off the hook either. He stared at his hands. "Becca didn't mean anything by the seating. She thought you'd be more comfortable near the kids." I nodded slowly. "You know, Jason, I've planned events for half my life. I've arranged weddings, anniversary dinners, baby showers, even a memorial or two. And I've always known that where you put people tells them what you think of them." He didn't respond. I continued, not bitter, just done. There was no mistake, no oversight. You all just made a decision. One that told me I don't really have a seat at your table anymore. Not really. And I finally heard it. Jason's face went red. He blinked hard and nodded once, like it hurt. "I'm sorry," he said. And for the first time, I believed him. He didn't stay long. There wasn't much else to say. He didn't try to argue, didn't push me to come over. Just stood, hugged me gently and said, "I'll call you soon." When he left, I walked back inside and made myself a cup of coffee. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant either. What I felt was something simpler, quieter. I felt like someone who'd finally pushed her own chair up to her own table. and maybe that was enough. A week later, I baked a cake. Not for anyone's birthday. Not for company. Just for me. Lemon with lavender glaze. The same flavor I had ordered for Becca's party. I baked it in silence, the radio off, the windows open, the smell of citrus drifting out into the spring air like something I didn't have to apologize for. I set one plate, 1 cup of tea, sat down at my kitchen table, the one I bought myself after the divorce, solid oak, no leaf for extension. For chairs, but I only ever needed one. And I ate slowly, without rush, without guilt. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't performing anything. Not motherhood, not usefulness, not resilience, just presence. Later that afternoon, Emily called again. "You doing okay, Mom?" she asked, not tiptoeing this time. "I am," I said. She hesitated. "Jason says he's still upset with himself." I let that sit for a moment. He doesn't need to be. I'm not angry anymore. That's good. I'm just different now, I added. Something shifted. Are you sure he shouldn't come by again? No. I think we've said what needed saying. Emily was quiet then. He told me he kept your seat open the last time they had dinner. Just in case. That made me smile. Not out of sentimentality, but because I knew he understood now. Maybe for the first time. After Effects must have keyframes selected from one layer in order to export them as text.